dare you?
So we understand through scripture that to be a saint is to be an Israelite. Point blank period.
Okay, interesting. Let's see. So let me ask you a couple of things that most people would kind of debate you on.
Sure.
Let's see. Okay, so the first one is who made up the chart that claims that Mexicans are Issachars, blacks or African Americans are from the tribe of Judah here in America, and Native Americans are what?
Native Americans are the tribe of Gad, and the Seminole Indians are the tribe of Reuben.
Now I know there's been like Hebrew texts found on stones in America, and that's
right.
from like before Columbus and stuff.
That's right.
So that's kind of interesting. I know there's like Hebrew tablet or Hebrew writings in South America and then also in Africa. Like
Puerto Rico as well.
Are Ethiopians part of that?
No.
No. Who is there any?
Well, yeah. Forgive me. By and large, no. But there is, we know for a fact there's a specific tribe in Ethiopia that historically is connected to indigenous peoples of the Caribbean. We believe that they're more than likely, according to our studies, connected to Cuba.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, who made up the chart?
But typically, for the most part, the people you see in Ethiopia are not Israelites. We understand that through prophecy. We know that the Israelites are scattered throughout the world, so there's what's called a remnant throughout all nations of the earth. There's Israelites peppered and scattered. There's communities here and there throughout the world. I won't even say communities, but there's remnants throughout the world. There's Israelites that look Chinese. You know what I mean? There's Israelites that look Japanese. But it's a very small number. By and large, Japanese people are not Israelites, right? So that's where you have to study history, try the spirit, and see if they are of God or not.
Okay, and you're saying the curses identify those people on the charts, but like I've heard some messed up stories about like people in India. You know what I mean? Like they're over there eating like piss water and stuff, and they're going through it. Like also people in Africa, they go through like a lot of bad stuff that I'm like, man. Like I'm glad I never, or our people don't go through that. Like there are people like I don't know, those people in Iraq. You know what I mean? What they went through with the U.S. war and stuff, Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Who's to say that they're not the cursed ones?
Well, that's a very good question. So what we do is that we go line for line through the curses, and we see and we find that historically speaking, the indigenous people and the so-called Negro people, African people, fit every single curse that has happened or that is written in the scriptures, right? For example, you mentioned East India, or the so-called Indians of East India, right?
Right.
Well, yeah, that may be the case that there's a lot of them there. I wouldn't even say a lot, but there's a lot of kids out there that are poor, right? But it's because of their own doing. It's not because somebody came in there and made them poor. It's because of their own doing, right? And not only that, but they're turning into not only a second world country, but very soon they're going to be a first world country power, right? A lot of engineers that come to the United States that work for Apple, IBM, Microsoft, they're Indians, right? They're not Mexicans, right? They're sending all of that engineer money back to India. Right, they're actually very well established. Not only that, but Indians have always known who they were. Right, they've always known they were Indians. They've always had the Rig Vedas and they've always had the sutras and the chakras and their East Indian doctrine. They've always had Vishnu and Ganesha. They've always had that. They never lost it, and it was never taken away from them.
That's true.
Right.
That's actually a good point right there. You're right. Even when the British came and took over and made it the East India Company or the British Indian Company, then they still kept their culture. Company. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, great. Let's see. Okay, so then the next question would be, so, you say that that salvation is only for a certain groups of people. So what happened to being grafted into, being saved and whatnot?
Saved by grace.
Saved by grace.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's another topic all in and of its own, but to be brief, right, there's an understanding in the scriptures that we teach that if you study, you'll find it. There's two examples of Gentiles. There's ethnic heathen Gentiles, for example, white people, and then there's our people, Israelites, that became like the Gentiles. Okay? And so we say that we understand that Paul was sent to the Gentiles, but he was sent to the Gentile Israelites, those that lost their way, those that abandoned their culture, those that had their culture beaten out of them, forcibly through rape, rob, and murder. That's who Paul was sent to.
Yeah.
Right?
The lost.
And the lost people of the house of Israel.
Right.
So that's what we stand on, and that's what we teach, and that's what the scripture very, very clearly reflects, is that salvation is for the Gentile Israelites, those Israelites that have grown up and were raised up in pagan, heathen customs and culture, but who are actual true blood Israelites.
Wow, that's difficult for me to comprehend, because I'm at the same time I'm from Mexico and stuff, but I'm like, man, I think so much like a white dude. I feel like I'm always thinking about bad shit, or am I just cursed and I'm actually just thinking how I'm cursed supposed to be? So I don't know if I'm more Spaniard or more Taino or Mayan. But
well, go ahead. And get 1 John 4:1, because remember in the beginning we were talking about how we don't count on color.
Right.
We don't really deal with that. It's an indicator, but it's really not anything that carries any real weight. It's still right. We don't really count with color. But because of that, what we do is that we try your spirit. So the fact that you talked to brothers in Dallas and you searched out to set up a podcast, the fact that we linked up, which is no coincidence, and we're on this podcast now, and you're very attentively listening and trying to seek this out and understand, is giving me an indication that you're actually an Israelite more than anything, rather than a Spaniard, right? Because you're truly trying to understand, and you're asking these questions, and you're seeking out understanding. You're kind of on the fence about it, but the Word of God has your attention, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You said 1 John what?
4:1.
4:1. 1 John 4:1 says, Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets are gone out into the world.
So that's the conversation we're having in these latter days. A lot of Christians point the finger at us and say we're talking about color, but we're not. This is not a color conversation, right? Now, color, when we're talking about what Jesus really looked like, then yeah, we can explain that he was a black man. But that's a different topic, right? We're talking about
Depending on the context of the conversation.
depending on the context of the conversation. So chiefly we're trying your spirit, right? We're going to ask you about slavery. What do you feel about that? What do you think about the history? What do you think about these artifacts? What do you think about these scriptures? What do you think about the prophecy? How do you feel about that? And if it resonates with you, then your spirit is in line with the scriptures. And you being a so-called Mexican man more than likely makes you able to try to visit more than anything, right? So we're walking in spirit, not in the flesh, right? You gotta be guided by the Spirit, and let not only that, but let the Spirit of the Most High, the Holy Spirit, take you and walk you. You know what I mean? Walk with you and let it happen. You know, a lot of our people bug out and they start to get too real for them, and they freak out and they fight back, and they end up back in the Christian church and the Catholic church, handing out money on a basket and praying to a white Jesus, because it's real. It's a very real experience. It's enough to make people freak out and have a panic attack, you know. But the fact that we're having this conversation now tells me that you're an Israelite for real.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Who knows? I might be, right, baby? You might be too. Okay. Let's see.
Your baby's trying to tell you that it's spirit.
She knows the Spirit is with her.
She's yelling at you. Is it a he or she?
It's a she. It's a person she.
Yeah, she's yelling at you right now.
Oh, real quick.
Real.
Speaking about babies. Uh, like the lineage also stops at a man, right? So if I want to keep my lineage going, I need to have a child. I need to have a boy in order to keep this Israelite lineage going.
Yes, but if you don't have a boy and you end up leaving this world, leaving this earth, passing away, and you've only had daughters, your daughter, I believe it's forgive me, I'm not a Levite, so I'm not fully mastered on the intricacies of this, but your daughter has to marry into your tribe to help carry on the lineage of your tribe. So you being more than likely from the tribe of Issachar, if you never had a son, say you only had this one daughter, he would by law need to marry an Issachar man, a so-called Mexican man, to help carry on the lineage of that tribe.
Awesome. Okay, great. Good to know. Let's see. There's, Mexicans are already like that. Or most races are already like that. They marry within their own race. Like 75% of, races marry within their own. Let's see. There's a message of hate in your preaching, because you guys have been accused. The first videos that I saw you guys were, I mean, not you guys specifically, but just like Black Israelites is, those guys wearing like, kind of, a little bit more fashion wardrobe, kind of purple and gold and stuff, and crowns, and they're yelling, and they're yelling at people, calling them epithets and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, hey, you know what? These guys have a point. So I really like that. But a lot of people don't, and they think that you preach a message of hate. What do you think?
Well,
you just call people out, maybe.
To keep it brief, yes, but it's according to Scripture, right? By God's own ordination, right? So yes, we preach hate for these other nations, these heathens that very deservedly need to be hated and need to be called out and need to be corrected, right? And not only that, but the Scripture says it, and which we could get, and also, the Most High God not only hates these heathens, but the Most High God hates you when you're sinning. A lot of people say, "Oh, he hates the sin, not the sinner," when that's simply not true. The Most High God hates you for sinning, right? Not only does He hate the sin, but He hates you for sinning, because you being His chosen people, you being His kings and princes and princesses, are choosing to defile yourself with abominations, abominable food, murder, robbery, lying, stealing, idolatry, adultery, right? Sleeping with another man's wife, pedophilia, bestiality, like all these nasty, disgusting things our people are doing. So rightfully so, God hates us for it, right? Now, a lot of people are like, well, how can God love you and hate you? Well, I mean, that's not a far-fetched concept, right? Like, I'm sure at our age at this point, we can think of family members we've loved, but we've hated for a certain reason, right? Because of certain things they did. But at the end of the day, we love them, right? It's the same thing with the Most High. He loves us and He chose us. He elected us as His people, but He hates us for the things we do, And I don't think that's a crazy, far-fetched, insane concept. Go ahead.
I got two precepts. I got Jeremiah 28 and 7 states, nevertheless, hear thou now this word that I speak in thy ears and in the ears of all the people. The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms, of war and of evil and of pestilence.
Right. We as then as well as now, we prophesy against these people. We prophesy against these nations, these perverted and heathen nations, right? That continuously and daily destroy our people with false doctrine, social media, economic policy, immigration policy, judicial policies that are clearly built to put indigenous and black people in prison, right? At a very high rate. So you're damn right that we go out to the street and we preach hate against that and against those people that very, very freely and with their whole heart, attack our people. You know, yes, we hate that, and we hate them for it. Got another percent?
I got Romans, I hate it.
Go ahead.
This book of Romans, chapter 9, and I'll start at verse 9. For this is the word of promise. At this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son, and not only this, but when Rebekah also hath conceived by one, even by our father Isaac, for the children being not yet born,
Right. Let's talk about Esau and Jacob. Go ahead.
neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to election might stand.
Right, which is talking about destiny, because whether you like it or not, we all have a destiny. Everybody on this earth has a destiny, and the Israelites specifically have a destiny to be in the kingdom and be in rulership. Whether you like it or not, that's your destiny as an Israelite. Go ahead.
Says, not of works, but of him that calleth. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger.
Right, which is prophecy of the so-called Caucasians, the so-called white people, Europeans, of serving our people in the future in the kingdom, right? Right now we're serving them. Right now we're tributary to them. But there's going to come a time where the table will turn, rightfully so. Some people would call it karma, where they're going to serve us. Right, go ahead.
It says, it was said unto her, verse 13, as it is written, God speaking, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated.
Right, Esau have I hated. So clearly we see here in the New Testament, God hating Esau. Right now people say, well, oh, that was 1 minute, which is true. But they'll say like, oh, that was 1 minute. Nevertheless, God hated somebody, right? Go to Psalms 5 and 5. And I really want to drill this home so the water for your faith as well.
Go for it. But yeah, you're right. There it goes. Hate in the Bible. There is hate in the Bible. As a matter of fact, because Jesus was speaking out and calling people out, isn't that why he got killed?
Yeah, well, that and the prophecy of his crucifixion, right? So, which is another topic we can touch on maybe later, of the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the high-ranking officials of Israel, right? Seeing him as a threat, seeing him as an idolater, seeing him as a blasphemer, right? And I guess an uprising, right, against the status quo.
Exactly.
And so they sought to crucify him for it. But that's it was meant to happen. As a matter of fact, a high priest knew, and very other Pharisees and other leadership knew who he was and knew that he had to be sacrificed, right? So there's a very complex telling of the story there. It wasn't just the Jews hated him. That's not.
Oh, really? Some people knew that he was the Christ, and they knew that they had a job to do to sacrifice him.
Yeah,
or I mean to crucify him.
Thousands and thousands of Jews knew this, and I think High Priest Caiaphas knew this, right? They knew this, and he even rebuked the leadership and said, "Y'all, you guys do not know nothing at all. You don't know that it's expedient and it's necessary that this man die for the nation." So even the high priest knew who he was and that he had to get sacrificed. There was just clusters and groups of them that were ignorant of it and they hated him for the wrong reasons. Go to Psalms 5 and 5.
The book of Psalms 5 and verse 5. The foolish shall not stand in thy sight. Thou hatest all workers of iniquity.
Thou hatest all workers of iniquity. So that's clear that we're not talking about the work of iniquity, but the worker of iniquity. And this is David talking, right? Who was a man after the Most High's heart. David was righteous in the eyes of the Lord. And David wrote, you hate the Most High God, you hate sinners, you hate workers of iniquity, right? Now this is the nail in the coffin, so to speak. Go to Psalms 139 and 21.
And 21. Psalm
Yeah.
139, verse 21. Do not I hate them, O Lord, that hate thee? And I am not, I grieved with those that rise up against me.
Right.
I hate them with perfect hatred.
What?
I hate them with perfect hatred.
Right? We
Thou
hate
hate my enemies.
I count them my enemies. We hate those that rise up, especially these other nations that rise up against God and his people, our race, the Rasta, right, that rise up against us. We hate them with a perfect hatred, right? And we count them our enemies. And this is according to David, right? And David was not only an extremely powerful king, but again, he was righteous in the eyes of the Most High. So we stand with our brother David, right? That we hate the heathen with a perfect hatred and we count them our enemies. That's just point blank period. As a matter of fact, last one I promise. Ecclesiastes 12 and 10.
Go for it. Because I got a couple more questions, man.
That's all good.
Ecclesiastes 12 and 10. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 10. The preacher sought to find out acceptable words, and that which was written was upright, even words of truth.
Ecclesiastes, sorry.
Oh. Book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12 and verse 10. Never trust thine enemy.
Don't. What did that?
Never trust thine enemy.
Right? Go ahead.
For like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness.
So bare iron, when it gets wet, it's guaranteed it's going to rust. Even the slightest moisture is going to rust. Even if you protect it, decades later, that protection is going to wear off and it'll eventually get weathered and it'll eventually rust. So just like iron rust is just how the wickedness of these other nations will be exposed. Sooner or later, right? Sooner or later, Jeff and Becky and all those nice white folks that you know, sooner or later, when shit hits the fan, they're going to betray you. They're going to turn on you, right? Because these nations know who they are and they know who is not a part of them. That's why, we constantly get screwed over and we constantly get a knife put in our back when we try to deal with these people, right? Because their spirit knows that they are our enemy and they will betray us sooner or later. We will get betrayed, right? And if they were so much our friend, why won't they give land back? Why won't they level the playing field, right? Why won't they grant our people passage to the United States, which is land that is rightfully ours,
Like they did to Ukraine.
right? Like they did to Ukraine. And that's how you know that Ukraine is the same people as the white folks in the United States because they give them asylum. They give them preferential treatment. They give them billions and billions of dollars, right? They don't do that for us, right? Keep going.
It says, though he humble himself,
Right? He humbles himself. Hey, we're the same. We're all human race, equality, gender equality, equal opportunity, land of the free, home of the brave. So he humbles himself. Go ahead
and go crouching,
right? Go crouching.
yet take good heed.
Take good heed, right? Because the history of these people, not just white folks, but all these other nations, right, is rape, rob, murder, betrayal. Go ahead.
It says, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away.
Right? His rust hath not been altogether wiped away. So we know that they're going to be who they're going to be, and they're always going to be like that. They're always going to be liars and betrayers. They're always going to be like that. Just because you run into a handful of some nice Asian folk or East Indians, or you've known a handful of nice white people, as a nation, they are thieves, robbers, rapists, liars, right? And before they apologize, before they make things right, hell will freeze over, so to speak, even though we don't believe in hell like the Catholic Church teaches, but I'm using that phrase to illustrate that it's never going to happen, right? And we hate them for it, and the scriptures say it's okay.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that they'll ever give Mexico back their land or the Native Americans back. I mean, I guess, or reparations back to African Americans. they give it back to what the people that they interned, right, for the Vietnam War or for the World War II. I mean, Japanese, yeah.
Yeah, they gave Japanese reparations. They gave them millions and millions of dollars, and all they did was keep them in internment camps for what was it, a couple years, few years, if that, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's insane. It's ridiculous.
How dare you!